Well, we have some very important $2,000 stimulus check updates that we need to get to. Because over the past several weeks, President Trump has mentioned multiple times that a $2,000 tariff dividend check is coming to millions of Americans. He's also made it very clear this will exclude high income earners, meaning only lower income and middle income households will receive this money. But we have some more updates that we need to get to because President Trump did say these checks will be coming likely in the later part of 2026. So, most likely the middle to later part. I also mentioned how there's reports that Democrats are considering coming back with a higher offer to try to entice the American people to vote for them as opposed to Republicans. Well, this is where things get interesting because look at this right here. It says bad news for Trump $2,000 checks as senators balk at the price tag and adding to our national debt. Now, what exactly does this mean? Well, here's the problem. Many senators are a little bit skeptical that sending a $2,000 check, which is going to be somewhat stimulative, this is going to create a problem because it's going to cause additional upward inflation. Look at this though. It says right here, President Trump's idea for $2,000 tariff rebate checks is falling flat with Senate Republicans. However, in just a moment, I'm going to explain why this may not matter. But look at this. It says why it matters. Many senators think such a move would require congressional authorization and they'd rather see the money go towards reducing the deficit. And I've been saying this for quite some time. From leadership to Trumpy freshmen, GOP senators have not been enthused by Trump's idea of sending $2,000 checks to Americans. This is what they're saying. Majority Leader John Thune told reporters Tuesday that the tariff revenue is considered to be substantial at this point and hopefully can be put to a useful purpose. Again, in my view, one of which would be repaying the debt. Even Senator Shelley Moore Capito said, I think it would be good to use the tariff revenues to pay down the debt and the deficit. Okay, so where does that leave us? Well, here's the thing, and I talked about this the other day. It would be great to get a $2,000 tariff rebate check, but some say this is going to act as stimulus. And we can't have that right now when the Federal Reserve is still trying to get inflation under control. By sending the American people $2,000 each, that is going to cause more inflation. And right now, the Federal Reserve is still considering and contemplating this as to whether or not they lower inflation or lower the interest rate coming up in December. That's something they're still going to discuss, and it's going to depend on what the data shows over the next month. So, as of right now, it still may be a little bit premature, but there's still a good chance some money is coming to the American people. But this is why I said it may not matter what the Senate is doing. Look at this. It says the White House is looking to issue tariff checks without Congress. How would they do that? Well, this is where things are getting interesting. And this is why I told you just the other day that there are discussions currently being had and kind of backroom agreements being made where what if we can provide some type of benefit back to the American people and use that tariff revenue? Well, some are talking about increasing the child tax credit. Others are talking about giving more money to Social Security recipients, providing additional benefits to SNAP recipients, and ensuring that even certain businesses are providing a little bit more of an incentive, like a higher wage. That's being discussed. Let me read this to you. It says Deputy White House Chief of Staff James Blair said the administration is eyeing ways to give millions of Americans $2,000 dividend checks from tariff revenue without congressional approval. Blair said that the White House will look as hard as possible to see if they can issue dividend checks without Capitol Hill approval, but also expressed skepticism. Says, We will look as hard as possible to see if there's a way to do it without Congress because we're circumspect about Congress wanting to stop. Blair said at the Bloomberg government event on Tuesday, the law is the law. I think that the most likely outcome, it requires an act of Congress. Most likely it does, okay? I'm going to be very blunt with this. If you want $2,000, it's going to require Congress to step in and pass this. If you want $2,000. If you want maybe $200, $300, $400, you may not need Congress. That's something that President Trump could probably get through for millions of people. It's probably not going to go to 150 million Americans, but could he provide a $400 or $500 stimulus check or tariff rebate to potentially 75 to 100 million Americans? Yeah, he could. And there's ways he can do that according to reports, but they're still trying to figure that out. Again, it's still a little premature because, according to these same reports, the Trump administration hasn't brought in, hundreds of billions of dollars. We haven't brought in $300 billion, which is what would be expected if we're going to send 150 million Americans a $2,000 check. We just don't have that kind of money yet, but the reports indicate the money is coming. It is flowing and tariffs are working. So we'll see what happens there. I do want to read one other thing to you. Look at this right here. It says, such checks could come in handy for lawmakers running in next year's congressional elections, but Republican senators are also worried about the potential impact on the deficit and inflation, which is becoming a major political vulnerability for their party. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that he would like to see revenues collected from higher tariffs be used to pay down the national debt, which has ballooned to $38 trillion. Okay. Here's the big worry. The big worry right now, and I said this before, I said this when President Trump was first talking about, and Elon Musk as well, where they were first talking about a Doge dividend check. And I remember early on we could see a Doge dividend check of $10,000. I said, no, that's highly unlikely because trying to reduce our deficit by $2 trillion is going to take time. And I believe right now it's like between $200 and $300 billion that they've been able to reduce our expenses by. That's great, but it's not enough. And so there's nowhere we're getting $10,000. But this is what I said. I said the problem that the Republican Party is having right now, and again, I'm not going to say where I heard that from, but maybe I did in a previous video. I'm not going to do it again. But one of the things that I heard was that Republicans were a little bit upset, especially those that are fighting for their seat in this upcoming midterm election, is that they were upset because by coming out saying that, hey, we're going to give you these dividend checks, we're going to give you a Doge refund, we're going to give you something like that, aka stimulus. It put the target on Republicans' back because if they are not able to successfully pass a bill and give you $2,000 or more, everyone looks at them as like, well, you guys were lying. You lied to us for an entire year saying that we're going to get this money. But yet it never came. I told you this the other day as well. Democrats know this. If Democrats know that Republicans have to get an additional 7 votes in the Senate to pass this bill, guess what? Democrats are not going to help Republicans pass a Republican bill. That is why I said there's been discussions that Republicans or Democrats want to increase the amount, provide it to more people, and give it to not just through a dividend refund, but giving it to people that absolutely need it. Because then that would actually turn the tide in favor of Democrats, not just Republicans. So again, it's a big political game at this point, but as we get closer to that time frame, which according to President Trump is going to be the middle of 2026, hopefully by then we do have a little bit more of an update. But as of right now, that is what we know. Republicans are not happy with this because they want to use this money this potentially $300 billion and use it to pay down our debt and help with the deficit, as opposed to giving it right back to the American people and letting them spend it as they wish. So, as we get more information as to what is going on here and how this is ultimately going to impact you, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get it. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.